Based on the real journey of Chief Nike Davies Okundaye, this story shows how art can heal, set free, and rekindle hope. Subscribe to the channel and let each story inspire you to see the beauty and strength that also live within you.
God didn't take me out of poverty so I could forget who was left behind. I was a girl who ate sand out of hunger. I became a woman who shared a man with 14 others. Then I became the mother who carried 60 kilos of hope in her head. But what God saw in me was not my pain. It was my paint. Every fabric I dyed with indigo blue was a prayer. Every thread I wove was a promise. I'm going to get out of here. And when I finally left, I looked back. 14 women were still in line. I could have gone ahead alone. But God didn't give me wings to fly alone. I came back. I taught each of them to weave their own freedom. Today, at 15, we have our homes, our children at university, our stories written with ink that doesn't erase. My name is Nike Okundaye, and God didn't save me just for me. The sand tasted like nothing. I would put it in my mouth and chew slowly, trying to make my stomach believe it was flour. It wasn't. But when you're 7 years old and hunger hurts more than any beating, you eat whatever you have. My great-grandmother watched me from the corner of the house. She said nothing. She just shook her head. She knew. We both knew. My mother had died 3 months earlier. My grandmother, soon after. It was as if God had taken all the women who protected me at once. That left me. And hunger and that sand that I pretended was food. Ogidi was a small village in central Nigeria. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and everyone knew I had no one. Orphan was a title I carried like a scar. My father was a good man, but poor, very poor. He wove baskets and played drums in traditional ceremonies. I earned enough to keep from starving. That's all. School, luxury food every day, miracle clothes without patches, an impossible dream. But I had something that many children didn't have. My great-grandmother Ibitola. Her name meant red woman. I don't know if it was because of the clay she used to dye fabrics or the force that burned inside her. But when she took me to live with her, something changed. She didn't have money to give me food, but there was something better. She taught me how to create beauty. The first time I saw indigo blue dripping onto white fabric, I forgot about hunger. It was like magic. My great-grandmother would dip the cloth in a tub of natural dye. Then she would wring it out and tie it with string. And when I took it off, the white turned deep blue. "This is Adir," she said, "the art of our people." I was 6 years old. I barely knew how to hold the needle properly. But she placed my small hand over hers and began to teach me. "Nike, pay attention. The fabric speaks to you. You just have to listen." I didn't understand. How could a cloth speak? But she continued. "Every knot you make is a story. Every color you choose is an emotion. When you dye, you're not just working. You're praying." I looked at her. "Praying?" She smiled. "Do you think God only hears words? He hears your hands too." I spent the next few years learning. While other children went to school, I went to the loom. While they played, I died. It wasn't a choice. It was survival. But something happened in the middle of all that. I started to like it. The smell of wet indigo, the rough texture of cotton between my fingers, the sound of the loom beating, beating like a heart. That became my voice, because my real voice. Nobody wanted to hear it. I was poor, orphan, girl. 3 things that, in my village, meant invisible. But when I finished a fabric and saw the design my hands created, I existed. At 13, my body began to change, and with that, men's perspectives also changed. My father started receiving visitors, old men, with small gifts, Quiet conversations I pretended not to notice. But one night, I heard my great-grandmother arguing with him. She's a child. She needs a husband. I can't take care of her forever. You're not taking care of her. You're selling her. Silence. Then his voice tired. I have no choice. I was hiding behind the door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they would hear it. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the thatched roof, thinking. I had two options: marry a man I didn't know, or run away. I ran away before sunrise. I only took a bundle of clothes and a piece of stale bread. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. I walked for hours. My feet were covered in blisters. The sun burned my skin, but I didn't stop, because for the first time in my life, I was choosing, even if it meant choosing the unknown. I ended up in Osogbo, a bigger city, known for its art, for its culture. For the artists who lived there, I got a job cleaning houses, carrying water, washing clothes. I earned almost nothing, but it was mine. No one could take it away. At night, I would collect scraps of fabric that people threw away, and she wove. On the floor of the tiny room I shared with 3 other girls, I created, because that was the only thing that made me feel whole. It was in Osogbo that I met him, Prince Twins 77. His name was already a legend, artist, musician, performer. Everyone knew him. Everyone admired him, and he noticed me. I was 14 years old. He was older, talented, charismatic. When he said he wanted to marry me, I thought it was a dream. Someone like him. Wanting someone like me. A girl who was running away from forced marriage, now choosing to marry of her own free will. It felt like freedom. My great-grandmother tried to warn me. Nike, this man, he has other women, I know, but he'll give me a better life. She cupped my face with her calloused hands. A better life isn't about having a man, my daughter. It's about having yourself. I didn't understand. I would only understand years later. When the line started, the wedding was simple. No big party, no pretty dress, but I was happy. I thought I had finally found my place. A real home, a real name, a family. The first night he took me to the room, but before entering he stopped. You know you're not the only one, right? I swallowed hard. B. How many do you think there are? My heart sank. I don't know. He smiled. It wasn't a mean smile. It was almost kind, but the words that came next cut like glass. 15. You're number 7. 15. I was 14 years old, and I had just discovered that I would be one in 15. That night, lying next to him as he slept, I stared at the ceiling. And for the first time since I ran away from home, I wondered if I had escaped to freedom or to another prison. Sometimes we escape from one cage only to enter a bigger one. But I didn't yet know that the keys were in my hands, literally, in the same hands that wove, in the same hands that would one day weave our liberation. The first thing I learned as wife number 7 was to wait. Wait my turn to speak. Wait my turn to eat. Waiting for my turn to exist. The house was big, but never big enough for 15 women, each with their children, their jealousies, their pain, and in the center of it all, him, Prince Twins 77, the man we all loved, or we thought we loved, because how do you love someone you have to split into 15 pieces? The rules were simple. Each wife had her day. Your turn. Monday belonged to the first wife, Tuesday to the second, and so on. When it was my turn, I got ready. I combed my hair, I washed my face, I put on my best cloth, as if he were going to meet a king, and maybe, in my 14-year-old head, he was. But kings don't stand in lines. Queens, yes, I learned this quickly. The first time I got pregnant, I thought everything would change. I thought he would see me differently, that I would be special. But when I told him, he just smiled and said, "Congratulations. Number 3 is also waiting. Ready." My pregnancy was not unique. It was just one more. I gave birth to my first child on the bedroom floor, alone, because it wasn't my day. The other wives helped, some with pity, others with indifference. When he was born, I looked at that wrinkled little face and thought, I need to get out of here. But where to? No money, no education, no family. I was trapped, and my son was stuck with me. It was at this time that I turned my room into a store. I had no choice. I needed money. My husband was an artist, yes, famous, yes, but fame doesn't buy food when you have 15 mouths to feed. I put a rug on the floor. I spread out my indigo-dyed fabrics, embroidery, batiks, adirs, each one made with my own hands. Beside me, my son slept on an old cloth. Sometimes he cried, sometimes he soiled the floor. And when visitors came to see my art, they stepped on it. They stepped on the feces. They trampled on misery. But they bought the fabrics, because beauty doesn't need cleanliness to be seen. She just needs truth. Foreigners started coming. Whites, Europeans, Americans, people interested in authentic African art. They came into my dirty room. They looked at the fabrics on the floor. They looked at me, thin, tired, with a baby in my arms. And they said, "How much?" I sold it cheap, not because my art wasn't worth it, but because my stomach couldn't wait. And whenever I heard the sound of a car pulling up in front of the house, my heart would race, not of joy, of fear, because soon after they came, the creditors. We owed it to everyone, bakery, market, neighbors. They knew when white men arrived, we would have money. Then they came, they surrounded the door, they waited for the visitor to leave, and they charged, "Where's my money? You promised to pay last week. If you don't pay today, I'll take your fabrics." I gave everything away, every penny I could get, and I was left with nothing. Sometimes I kept the money hidden in my bra, just a little, to buy milk for my son. I felt like a thief. But what mother doesn't steal to feed her baby? The other wives had their own struggles. Some sold food on the street. Others washed clothes. One of them was a secret prostitute. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. We never talked about it openly, but we all knew. We were sisters in misery, rivals in love. I had my second child, then the third, then the room. Each pregnancy is more difficult than the last. My body was tired. In my early 20s, I looked 40. My breasts were sagging. My hands were calloused. My face dull, but my tissues more and more beautiful, because I put into them what I couldn't put into myself: color, life, hope. Every thread I wove was a silent prayer. God, get me out of here. It was during one of these silent prayers that I received the letter. A thin paper letter, smelling of foreign perfume, an invitation to teach a dyer techniques in the United States. Someone had seen my work. Someone wanted me there. I held that letter with trembling hands. Read, rely, read again. USA. I had never left Nigeria. I had barely left Osogbo. How did I get to the other side of the world? I showed it to him. "You should go," my husband said. I blinked. "Same?" "Sure, you'll bring money. We need it." Of course, it wasn't about me. It was about the money. But I didn't care, because for the first time in years, I would feel something I had forgotten. Freedom. I packed my things. I left my children with the other wives. My heart ached, but something inside me knew. That trip wasn't just about teaching art. It was about learning to live. At the airport, I hugged my oldest son. He was 8 years old. "Mom, are you coming back?" "I'll be back, my love, and when I come back, everything will be different." He didn't understand me either. Yet, the plane took off. I looked out the window. I saw Nigeria getting small, and I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't fear. It was hope. For the first time in 15 years of marriage, I wasn't sharing the air with 14 other women. I was alone, and alone I could breathe. Sometimes God needs to take you out of your place so you can see the size of the prison. I thought I was trapped by love, but love doesn't make you wait in line. Love doesn't make you step in feces to sell beauty. I was about to find out. And when she found out, she wouldn't go back alone. I would come back with the key. America smelled clean. It was the first thing I noticed when I left the airport. No dust, no sweat, no open sewers, just that artificial smell of cleaning product that seemed to want to erase any trace of humanity. I was in New York, carrying an old suitcase full of fabrics and a heart full of fear. Nike. A white woman, short hair, wide smile. "Try." "Welcome. I'm Sarah. We're so excited to have you here." She spoke too fast. I barely understood English. I had taught myself, listening to old records, reading discarded newspapers, but understanding fast-paced conversations, another story. I smiled. I shook my head. I pretended to understand everything. The house where I stayed was small, but clean. There was hot water. The electricity never went out. The refrigerator was full. Normal things for them. Unimaginable luxury for me. I took a hot shower for the first time in my life. I stayed in the shower for almost an hour, crying, not from sadness, of relief, because my body, tired of carrying weight, could finally relax. The workshop started the next day. A room full of women, white, black, Asian, all interested in learning admire. I showed it, how to prepare the fabric, how to tie the knots, how to dip in indigo. They looked at me with admiration. "This is beautiful. You're so talented. Where did you learn this?" I smiled. But inside, I wondered, if only they knew where I learned it. On the dirty floor, hungry, with a crying baby by my side. Would you still find it beautiful? It was on the third day that she approached, a black woman, older, gray hair. "Are you married?" he asked in halting English. "On. Children?" "4." She smiled. "It must be hard being away from them." "And?" Silence. Then she asked, "And your husband? Does he take care of them while you're here?" I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a bitter laugh. "He has other wives. They take care of him." She stopped fiddling with the fabric. He looked at me. "Other wives?" 15. I'm number 7. The silence in the room was heavy. They all stopped working. They looked at me, and I realized they didn't know. They didn't know that was the price of my art. That night, the woman invited me to dinner at her house. It was a simple but cozy apartment. Pictures on the wall, the smell of home-cooked food, low music. "Do you live alone?" I asked. "I'm alive. I'm divorced." Divorced? She served the dish. Yes, my ex-husband was violent, so I left. I blinked. And your children? They're with me. He pays child support. Pension, divorce. Words I knew, but had never seen in practice. And you, can you live? Alone? She smiled. I can. I work as a teacher. It's not much, but it's mine. That word echoed in my head. In the following weeks, I met other women. Women who worked, women who voted, women who chose. They chose to get married or not. They chose to have children or not. They chose to stay or leave. And for the first time, I understood. I was not a wife. I was a prisoner. One night, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed. I picked up the phone. I called home. It took a while. The call was expensive. The line was bad. But when I heard wife number 3's voice on the other end, my heart sank. Hello. It's me, Nike. Nike, how are you? Well, what about the children? They're fine. I miss you. Silence. Then I asked, and you? How are you? She hesitated. Tired. I knew what that meant. Tired of waiting, tired of sharing, tired of surviving. When I get back, I said slowly, we need to talk. About what? I looked out the window. City lights flashing, cars passing by, free people walking around. About leaving. Silence on the other side, far away, heavy. Then she whispered, do you think it works? Yes, I'll show you how. I returned to Nigeria 3 months later, thinner, more tired, but different. I brought with me something that I didn't have when I left. It wasn't money, although I had earned a little. They weren't contacts, although I had made several. It was certain, the certainty that I didn't need a man to exist. When I got home, he was there, surrounded by women, laughing, eating, living. He saw me. He smiled. It's here, and the money. I took an envelope out of my pocket. I delivered. He told, just that. Just that. He snorted. I thought you were going to bring more. I looked at him, for the first time, without fear, without love, without anything. I brought something better. What? I looked at the other wives. They looked back at me, waiting. Hope. In the following days, I began to gather the women, one at a time, in secret, in the backyard, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, wherever. I told them what I saw. Single women, women with their own money, free women. But how? They asked. Work, art, we already know how to do it. He won't let me. He doesn't have to leave. We just have to leave. Silence, fear in their eyes, but also something new, curiosity. I started teaching, adir, batik, weaving, techniques I learned from my great-grandmother, techniques I perfected on my own. Now I passed it on to them. Every fabric you make is money. Money is freedom. They listened, some with hope, others with disbelief, but they all listened because deep down we all wanted the same thing, get out of the queue. It took me months of teaching, planning, saving. I hid money. I sold fabric secretly. I made contacts with foreign buyers. And when I finally gathered enough, I took a deep breath. It was time. I left on a Tuesday. I didn't warn him. I just warned the others. I grabbed my 4 children, my bundles, my fabrics, and I walked through the door. He was sleeping. I didn't wake him up to say goodbye. Goodbyes are for those you love. And I didn't love anymore. I had never loved. I had just survived. I rented a small house, 2 bedrooms, no luxury, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I had a space that no one shared with me. My children slept in one room, me on the other, and every night before I went to sleep, I gave thanks. Thank you, God, for taking me out of line. Freedom is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of choice. I chose to leave, and now I needed to help the others choose too, because revolution is not individual, it's collective. The house was empty of me first. Then it began to empty from the others, one by one, like dominoes falling, silent, determined, free. The first one to come to me was wife number 3. He knocked on my door on a Thursday night, swollen eyes, chapped lip. Can I come in? Always. She sat down. She didn't say anything for a while. He just looked at the floor. Then he whispered, I want to go out. I held her hand. Then get out. I don't know how. I'll teach you. I started with the basics. I showed her how to sell fabrics, how to calculate prices, how to talk to buyers. You don't have to be too humble. Your art is worth it. She looked at the fabric she had made. Deep indigo, complex patterns. Do you think so? I know. And when she sold the first fabric, something changed in her face. It wasn't just happiness, it was power. The power of knowing that she could. Wife number 9 came next. Younger, more shy. I'm scared, she said. Of what? Of not being able to, of going back, of being worse alone. I understood, because I had the same fear. Being alone is not being lonely. It's being your own boss. She didn't understand at the time, but I would understand. In the following months, our house became headquarters. Women came and went, bringing fabrics, taking money, exchanging stories. My children helped. They folded fabrics, they wrapped packages, they served customers. Mom, why do aunts cry so much? My youngest son asked. Because they are waking up. Waking up from what? From a long nightmare. He noticed, of course. When wife number 3 left, he was confused. When the 9 came out, he got angry. When 12 came out, he was furious. He came to my house. He knocked on the door loudly. What are you doing? Open the door. Calm down. Teaching them how to live. You're destroying my family. I looked into his eyes, the same eyes that once made me dream. Now, they just made me feel sorry. Family is not a prison. If they are leaving, it is because they were never yours. He raised his hand. For a second, I thought he was going to hit me. But it didn't hit, because he knew. Hitting wasn't going to bring me back. Nothing was going to happen. Wife number 1 took longer. She was the oldest, the first, the most respected. She had status that the others didn't have. Why would I leave? She asked me. Because status doesn't warm the bed when he's with someone else. She looked at me, offended, but also curious. And you? Are you happy alone? More than I have ever been divided. She thought, days, weeks, until one day he appeared with a bundle. I came. Welcome. It wasn't easy. Some came back, not because they wanted to, but because fear was greater than courage. I didn't judge. Who am I to judge someone who isn't ready yet? But the ones that stayed, the ones that stayed, they became lionesses. We created a cooperative. Each one made their art. They sold it. They saved their money. Nobody shared anything. Your job, your money, your life. It seemed obvious. But for women who had shared everything their entire lives, it was revolutionary. Can I keep everything?" asked number 6. "You can. It's yours." She looked at the money in her hand, and he cried because for the first time she didn't have to hand it over to anyone. The husband tried everything. First, he tried to convince us to come back. Promises, flowers, apologies. It didn't work. Then he tried to embarrass us. He spread the word that we were prostitutes, crazy, ungrateful. It didn't work. Finally, he tried to ignore us. He married 7 more women, as if you could replace 15 with 7 others. It didn't work because the seed had already been planted, and seeds of freedom grow fast. 3 years later, we all had our own homes. Small, yes, but ours. We paid rent, or installments, or we had already paid off. It didn't matter. What mattered was that the key was in our pocket. Wife number 15, the youngest, opened a store. I sold fabrics, clothes, and crafts. "Can you believe I have my own store?" she told me, laughing and crying at the same time. "I believe you. You deserve it." Why? Because you chose to. To choose, a word none of us knew before. Now, it was our favorite word. But I wanted more. It wasn't enough that we were free. I wish other women were too. Because if 15 could do it, 1,000 could do it. That's how the idea was born. A center, a place where women could learn, free, without having to pay, without having to prostitute yourself, without having to sell yourself. They just needed to want it. I saved up the money I had. I asked for a loan. I sold fabrics. And I bought a small plot of land in Osogbo. I built a shed, simple, old tiles, unpainted walls, but functional. I set up looms, indigo tub, fabrics, needles, and I opened the doors, Nike Center for Art and Culture. My name, my mission. The first students were shy, poor women, widows, single mothers, women that society had forgotten. I haven't forgotten. You will learn adir, batik, weaving, and you will sell. What if we can't? You'll get it. I'll guarantee it. And guarantors. I connected them with buyers. I took them to fairs. I taught them how to negotiate. Each student's first sale was a party because it wasn't just money. It was dignity. Freedom is not a selfish act. It is a revolutionary act. When you free yourself, you show the way. And the path multiplies. 15 women became 15 examples. 15 examples turned into 1,000 hopes. And 1,000 hopes. They became a silent revolution. Today, I look back and see a miracle. Not the kind of miracle that appears in religious books, but the kind of miracle that happens when women decide they deserve more. 15 women, 15 houses, 15 lives completely transformed. Some remarried, this time with men who chose them alone. Others decided never to marry again. And they are happy like this, because they discovered that they don't need a man to be complete. They only needed themselves. Wife number 3 became a businesswoman. There are 3 fabric stores in Lagos. Your children are at university. Do you regret leaving? I asked once. She looked at me as if I had said something absurd. Regret? What I regret is not having left sooner. Number 9, the shy one, became a teacher, teaches adir in public schools. The girls look at me with admiration. She told me, and you deserve it. No, you deserve it. For showing me the way. I held her hand. I just opened the door. You were the one who had the courage to go through. Number 1, The oldest, the toughest, was the last to leave. But when he left, he didn't look back. Today, he has a small farm, grows cotton, produces its own fabrics. I wake up when I want. I sleep when I want. I eat when I want. She paused. It seems silly, right? But for me, it's everything. It wasn't nonsense. It was freedom. What about me? My life turned into something I never imagined. The little shed in Osogbo has grown. It became a real center. Then it became 2, 3, 4. Today I have art centers in Lagos, Osogbo, Abuja, and Ogidi, my hometown, the place where I ate sand thinking it was food. Now, girls in this same village are learning to create beauty and make money from it. The cycle has been broken. I have trained over 3,000 women, free street vendors, single mothers, former prostitutes, widows, women that society has discarded. I took these women and showed them, you are not trash. You are uncut diamonds, and cutting diamonds is my specialty. My art has been exhibited in museums around the world. Smithsonian, Washington, Museum of Natural History, London, Goethe Institute, where it all began. Kings visited me. Presidents honored me. Nobel laureates praised me. But you know what makes me most proud? It's not the prizes. It's not the exhibitions. That's when a former student calls me and says, Nike, I managed to pay for my son's school. Or, Nike, I bought my first house. Or simply, Nike, thank you. You saved me. I didn't save anyone. I just showed that they already had the strength. They just needed to believe. My children have grown up, all graduated. One is a doctor, another is an engineer, another is a teacher. They look at me with pride. Mom, you are an inspiration, they say. I laugh. Inspiration is a beautiful word. I just did what needed to be done. But deep down, I know my journey wasn't just mine. It was all of ours, of the 15, of the 3,000, of the millions to come. I got married again. After leaving her first husband, I married a British man, then with a Nigerian police commissioner. Good men, men who chose me alone. No queue, no division, no competition. And you know what I discovered? Love doesn't hurt. What hurts is the lack of it disguised as polygamy. I returned to my village a few times. I saw the ex-husband, older, more tired, more alone. He looked at me, not angry, with sadness. Are you okay? He asked. I am. And you? He didn't answer. There was no need. The answer was in his eyes. He lost 15 women, and he won nothing, because you can't lose what you never respected. The Nike Art Gallery in Lagos has become a tourist attraction, 3 floors, more than 8,000 works of art. Africa's largest private gallery. People come from all over the world to see, to buy, to learn, but mainly to feel, because every piece there has a story of struggle, of overcoming, of faith. There is a fabric that I never sell. It hangs at the entrance to the gallery, deep indigo, interwoven patterns. I made it on my bedroom floor, when my son slept next to me, when creditors knocked on the door, when I was still number 7. I look at him every day, and I remember. I remember where I came from. I remember what I survived. I remember the miracle I experienced. The 15 of us meet once a year. On the anniversary of the first one that came out, we have a party. We laughed, we cried, we ate, we danced, and we are grateful. We are grateful that we had courage. We are grateful to have each other. We are grateful to be alive and free. Sometimes young people ask me, Nike, how did you do it? I take a deep breath. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Were you afraid? Every day. So how did it go? I look into their eyes and I say, because fear doesn't kill, standing still does. Today, in my 70s, I still wake up early. I go to the arts center, teaching, because teaching is my way of praying. Every woman who learns is an answered prayer. Every fabric sold is a small miracle. Every transformed life is God acting. God did not take me out of poverty so that I would forget about it. He took me out so I could come back with solutions. He didn't free me to be free on my own. He freed me so I could free others. He didn't give me a voice to keep quiet. It gave me a voice to shout, you deserve more, you can do more, you are more. 15 wives, 15 houses, 15 lives. But one lesson, freedom is not selfish. It is multiplier. When one breaks free, it shows the way, and the path multiplies. From 15 to 3,000, from 3,000 to millions. I was the girl who ate sand. I became the woman who wove hope. I was wife number 7 in a line of 15. Today, I am the mother of thousands, not by blood, but by choice, because I chose not to forget. I chose to return. I chose to free. And that choice changed everything.
This was just part of Chief Nike Davies Okundai's incredible journey. A woman who transformed pain into art, and art into liberation. From 15 wives who lived in the shadows, 15 women were born who now shine with their own light. And from this silent revolution, a mission was born to empower thousands of women through traditional African art. Nike didn't just survive, it created a legacy. The Nike Art Gallery, the free training centers, the thousands of lives transformed. All of this was born from a choice, not accepting the line as destiny. What about you? Have you ever had to choose your freedom even when the world told you to stay still? If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and share it. Someone out there might need to hear that it's possible to step out of line and weave your own story. Because freedom is not a gift. It is an achievement, and every achievement begins with a choice.